Welcome back. Now we have this Supergrid Starter Pack project, and what we'd like to do is create a basic prototype level with basic geometries that will be placeholder geometries until we can migrate this over to our shooter project and replace it with actual assets. Now, we need to make sure that everything is scaled properly, and also we'd like to be able to walk through it while we're developing it so we know how it feels. So for that, we're going to want a third-person character so that we can run around in our prototype level. Now, the Supergrid Starter Pack does not come with one, but we can easily add starter content to a project. And we can do that by clicking Add New and going up to Content and selecting Add Feature or Content Pack. And if you select that, you can select Third Person and click Add to Project. Now, once you've done that, now we'll have the third person folder and the third person BP. And if we double click blueprints, there's the third person character and third person game mode. Now we can go to world settings, and for game mode override, we can select third person game mode and click the drop down, and you'll see third person character as the default pawn class. Now if we go ahead and hit play, we have the third person pawn, and we can run around and make sure that the geometry is scaled properly as we develop this. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead and start blocking out some geometry for our first level. Now, there are many philosophies to level design, and in particular, shooter level design. We're not going to be doing anything crazy or too advanced. Our geometry is going to be pretty basic for this course and for this level that we're going to create. But you can go anywhere you want with this, and you can be as creative as you want. And so for simplicity's sake, our geometries are going to be basic, but we're going to do our best to make at least a decently fun experience. So let's go ahead and get started prototyping this level. Now, for our shooter game, our shooter character is going to be spawned in a particular area. We can simply use this area here, only instead of this floor here, I'm going to use only the starter grid geometries. So let's delete this staircase, and let's take this block here, and we're going to go ahead and move this so that its corner matches the corner of this floor. And then we can go ahead and scale it out until it's the same size as the floor. Now, I believe this is 1,000 units by 1,000 units. Okay, so we've got this block here, and it's the size of the floor. We can now take that floor and delete it. And for the Z location of this block, why don't we go ahead and put it at 0. And let's take our X and Y and put those both at -500. And I'm going to scale this down to just 1 block unit. I'm going to call these cubes 1 unit, where you see this, it's basically 4 squares of the same color. Each of these cubes that looks like its own color, I'm going to call those 1 unit, just for convenience. Now the player start is right here in the middle. I'm going to bring it up just a bit. And now we can call this the starting area for our level. Now we can give this some walls. Let's go ahead and go into our Supergrid / starter pack, source meshes, and take one of our Supergrid boxes and bring it out. And if we take a look at the world axis here, the X and Y directions are pointed in the same direction as the arrows on this widget. And I'd like to go ahead and work from that top corner up there. So I'm going to go ahead and select both the X and Y at the same time and hold Shift and just drag this over to the top corner. And then if I hit R, then I can simply scale it out in the X direction. And if I go past it by a little bit, then I can just bring it back in. Now, I'm seeing that I'm not able to stop exactly at the edge, so I can take my scaling snap increments and set them to the next level down, which is 0.125, and then I'm able to scale it exactly out. So I see I'm off by a little bit here, and if I look up on this side, I need to bring it over a bit. And now I should be able to scale it all the way. Okay, so we have a wall here. I'm going to bring it up. And now I can duplicate this by holding Alt and just dragging it out over to the other side. And now we have two walls here. Now zooming in on this, I can see that the bottom is not exact in its size. And that's because the scale here in the Y is not quite 10 like the X is. I'm going to bring that to 10, and now I can take this block and move it over. Okay. Now I'd like the snap value to be very high, and this is going to allow me to prototype very fast and be able to snap things to their exact locations on the grid. And then I can do things like select a wall and hit E to get rotate mode, and simply Alt and rotate by 90 degrees, and that gives me a nice wall. And then of course I can scale this down by a single unit. Now 10 is a bit too high, so we're going to want 1 for the scale snapping, and that's going to snap me by an entire unit here. So I'll go back down to about here so we don't have overlapping geometry. Okay, so this is a nice starting area for the character. If we go ahead and hit play, you'll see that we begin with some walls, and there's only one way to go, which is forward, and that's going to be where all the action is. So this is a good starting point for our level geometry. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and start to create like a courtyard here, and possibly some different levels of elevation, some stairs, and more complex geometry. I'll see you in the next video.